What does it take to flip a congressional seat in Indiana? What does it take to hold one? Or maybe most importantly, who are the people willing to step up and fight for Hoosier families in Washington? This is Turn Left, Running for Congress 2026. We're sitting down with the Indiana Democratic candidates running for Congress in the 2026 primary. This is your chance to hear directly from the people who want to represent you, not just their talking points, but their stories, their values, and their vision for Indiana's future. Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left. This is the first of a series of shorts, Turn Left shorts, where we're talking to the congressional candidates who are running all over the state of Indiana. So first up, we have Jackson Franklin, who is running for Congress in the 5th District. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Dana. I really appreciate it.
I love it. So first up, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yep, I'm Jackson Franklin. I'm from Muncie, Indiana, Ball State, chirp, chirp. I'm an Army combat medic. I've been serving in the Indiana Army National Guard for 7 years now, deployed overseas, was on COVID orders, deployed all over the country, Hurricane Milton, all that. That being said, the DOW does not approve this message. Pete Hegseth hates me. The Army basically told us ourselves. But yeah, we're just fighting for the working class, fighting for human rights, and we're going to try our best to flip this district come November 3rd.
I love that. Now, one of the things I've noticed in all of your digital ads is that you say that you are a grassroots candidate. What does it mean to you to say that you're a grassroots candidate?
Right. So what many progressives view as grassroots campaigning is no corporate lobby money, no super PACs, and, legally, you can't say super PACs and candidates can't connect, but you can basically make it a place where they are not welcome at all. And you could say that just by bluntly saying it and having, popular policy that, I don't know, like certain interest groups are like, well, that candidate, we don't have a chance at swaying them or anything. But so, yeah, we're proud to say that we're the only grassroots campaign running in this district, meaning that we're the only ones that have pledged to never take any corporate lobby money. We're just running, Bernie Sanders style, AOC, Zohran Mamdani style, popular movements that gain traction. And we can say what the people are feeling without trying to play it like corporate safe or like politics as usual. And that's why we can advocate for policies that are incredibly popular, especially around here in Indiana, such as things like Medicare for All, which, according to The Hill, 70% of Americans, both Republicans, Democrats, and independents, 70% of America wants Medicare for all, but there's a huge disconnect between what us, the voting electorate, the working class want, and what our politicians that get sent to Congress want. And that's because of money in politics. Many people across the country, we don't feel like corporate money has a place in our democracy. Of course, Citizens United, really impacted our elections, and we would love to see a movement to more public funding of our elections. And, it goes down to the lowest level to the highest level. I'm in a generation where all we've known is like school shooter drills, lax gun laws, no gun reform. And I know like all my life, I'm like, in high school and elementary school, I shouldn't be a kid and, worry about a school shooter at any point. I should worry about being a kid. But thanks to like lobbying groups such as the NRA, even our state lawmakers are complicit in like not creating policy, not standing up for the next generations. And it's also like the health insurance industry with Medicare for All. Obviously, if a candidate is taking money from, let's say, like Indiana Health Group or Indiana Spine Group, as some people, my opposition is perhaps taking, they're not going to say as much popular policy as we are because they want to play it safe. They want to make sure that they get that next, $2,000, $5,000, check from all these different industries. It takes many groups, the whole industry pulling in their money. But they're not going to say things that are popular that we want to hear, such as Medicare for all. Like, what sounds better to you as like put yourself in the shoes of like a typical voter, like every election time, that's when a politician maybe goes up to their door, gets a phone call. If someone says, I care about healthcare, that could be either party. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, you care about, everyone cares about healthcare. But if someone says, listen, I know you're neck deep in medical bills. We have a brighter future that we can fight for. We're not just lesser of two evils. We have a brighter, positive vision for the future. We can guarantee access to healthcare to all across this nation for cheaper, just like every other modern developed nation on the planet. America is uniquely set up to where we have like the largest amount of bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy, which is the highest form of bankruptcy anywhere in the country, and 70,000 Americans die every year due to lack of health insurance. I've seen it as a paramedic working on the ambulance. So that's why we're a grassroots campaign. We're standing up for the working class. It's not politics as usual. And I'll remind people that Bernie Sanders won this state in 2016. Now, he didn't have as much money. Money goes a long way in elections. I'll admit it. But many Indiana politicians, they sacrifice popular policy, winning policy, all to be corporate safe. And unless I missed the huge grassroots movement sprouting out of Indiana in the last 20 years since Republicans have had a supermajority, it's been kind of like just business as usual. So what this movement is, in other campaigns as part of the larger grassroots movement across the nation, is just saying, let's be popular. And in a democracy, let's earn those votes. We do not have, our main enemy is not the Republican politicians, contrary to, what most of the dialogue will say. Our main competition is the couch on election day. Yep. Indiana ranks 50th out of voter turnout. And I believe it's because we need candidates and a strong Democratic Party that, energizes the base and fights for the things that we all pretty much agree on for the most part. As much as I said, there's a huge disconnect between what us, the voters, want and then what, when people get elected, what they actually do in office. So that's why we're very proud to say we're a grassroots campaign, and that's why we're going that direction, because it's just correct morally and it's strategically correct as well.
I love it. So you said you were in the military?
Yes, I am. Still am.
Still am. Okay. So what was it about your personality or your conviction that made you decide to join the military?
I knew, my mom probably knew I was going to join the military since I was 5. I'm not going to lie. Being a little kindergarten, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to jump out of an airplane. Not me. So I'm just one of those people, I just knew I wanted to do it. And now that I'm, been in it for 7 years, I'm a staff sergeant, I've been like a medical team leader, section leader, had led soldiers. I love the Army, it makes, there's so much good that we can do. It makes me very sad and upset about what this administration is doing with the military nowadays.
Has there been anything specifically about your time in the military that has prepared you to be in Congress?
Yeah, working as a team. That's the biggest thing you'll ever learn in the military is working together to accomplish the mission. It goes the mission, the men, and then yourself, as a famous Army saying goes. So we need to accomplish the mission. We need to take care of our people, and then lastly, it's selfless service. It's selfless leadership. You got to lead, a movement. You got to lead change in this country, for the betterment of everybody else, and have that empathy towards groups that have been marginalized for a very long time. And, I think the Army's given structure as far as our campaign goes. I mean, I relate things back to the Army because that's just my personal experience. Even our campaign is structured. I view the campaign manager as the first sergeant, and every county leader. That's just how I perceive things. I know everyone probably does this, but it's oh yeah, every county has their own platoon sergeants and their teams and everything like that. So it gives me structure in my life, and I know how to fight for things that are larger than just myself.
I love that answer because I think one of the things that I've always struggled with is, excuse me, we have people who are so ready and willing to put our military armed forces in harm's way without actually considering the lives that these folks are living. So, for example, as one of the things this administration is not doing is consulting with Congress as they send our military and our armed forces around the world, especially in Venezuela and things like that. Talk to us about how you are feeling about the way this administration is treating our armed forces.
It's despicable, and it's crime. I can't be more blunt about it. They are committing crimes. They're against the law. Not only domestically, yes, you have to consult Congress, and even if they did consult Congress, it would not be moral to take over another country that didn't attack us. for oil. Like they're just being so blunt. 20 years ago, they said like, oh, it's weapons of mass destruction. And by the way, we're going to steal all the oil.
Right.
Now it's just upfront. Like, yes, they have a lot of oil, guys. Come on, what are you stupid? Like, come on, you radical left scum. You like get that oil, man. So it's really upsetting, and it breaks international law. There's not, as far as the UN is concerned, Maduro, the president of Venezuela, or at least former president at this point, probably I don't know what's gonna become of him.
Where is he now? Is he?
He's in New York. He's actually in the same jail that Luigi Mangione and Diddy are at. Funny enough, yeah, it's weird how all these things connect. But so yeah, there's not any UN breaking law that that Maduro specifically, he's not on like the wanted list for, the UN, much as like, let's say Benjamin Netanyahu, who's committed genocide in Gaza. But Netanyahu has visited this country 5 times under Trump. He broke the record for the most amount of visits for a world leader to this country in any given year, which is 5 times, which is a lot because there's more than 193 countries in the world, and you visited one of them 5 times in a year. That's a lot of travel time. You have a lot of people you got to work with. So, and we had every opportunity to arrest him in accordance with international law, but we didn't. But now we're choosing to say, oh, Maduro broke our own law that we made up, and so that's why we're going to arrest him. On that basis, China or Russia could easily say, Donald Trump broke our law that we just made up, and now we're going to go arrest him. It's completely immoral, it's illegal, and it's not how the world international law is completely broken in the year of 2026.
And you mentioned that it really is about oil, right? Fossil fuel. There are a lot of people who are like, fossil fuel is not the future. Renewable energy is the future.
Yes.
What say you about this need to continue on with this fossil fuel when we know that it's not the future of energy?
Right. So yeah, it comes back, glad that you mentioned it up front. It comes back to money and politics. Like they know where the data is. They know that in the 2050s, all of our top experts are saying that we're going to have the first water wars in Africa. Like these conservatives are worried about immigration now. Just imagine when half a continent and everyone around the equator is flooding into Europe and America because they don't have any clean water, or all of our beaches are just all of Florida just gets submerged. All of the Netherlands is submerged. All these places around the world just have to move up north or down south. And, they say they're worried about immigration now. Just wait until the whole world and how we run society as an international civilization. There's going to be hundreds of millions, if not billions of people moving to this country. And so I tell my conservative friends this all the time. I'm like, if you guys are really concerned about immigration, then you should be like the #1 advocate for climate, renewable energy programs. But it's also not, because the big fossil fuel industry, ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron, they have bought our president, and they have bought many places throughout, local government as well. So, and it all comes down to, money and politics, and who is getting the best interest out of their politicians, most bang for their buck. So that's why we have to organize a grassroots movement to tackle that, and also support things much like the Green New Deal. It's like the New Deal, FDR, my favorite president, had a huge jobs program all across this country, creating, jobs for our young men and young women all across, infrastructure. What the Green New Deal is what if we gave jobs to so many people, but we made that industry renewable energy? It's not going to go to China. It's not going to go to India. We're going to make green jobs all across, hundreds of thousands of green jobs all across this country, and save our planet on the way. It's like a two birds, one stone. The planet is not just simply dying. It's not just it's ebb and flowing. It's just, it's dying off a little bit right now. No, it's getting murdered by greedy fossil fuel CEOs that lobby our politicians, and the politicians have stabbed us in the back by not continuing policy that, more than 70% of the country already agrees with. So we need to get in, organize a movement to take out the fossil fuel fascist running our president right now.
So the WTHR just reported this week that over 200 Indiana daycares have had to shut down because of the lowering of the cost the lowering of the payments that go to the child care centers. Indiana already has one of the highest child care costs in America. From a federal perspective, when you look at how dollars flow down, what kind of priority would you put on early childhood education and making sure that parents don't have to give up their jobs, right, to stay home for childcare?
Yeah, well, this is an issue that I'm like very passionate about. I actually just got invited by a daycare here in Muncie, and they gave me a tour of the facility. I talked to all the kids; they're just really excited. And I talked to the daycare workers who were just really depressed and very upset about, I'm running for a federal position. I'll get to that soon, but state policy has absolutely crushed our daycare system in this state because they got rid of the daycare vouchers, which, there was $220 million that were floating off the COVID relief fund. The state cut it. And now, and on those those daycare vouchers, 81% of Hoosiers that are on those vouchers that needed to, send their child to daycare so they can learn and also so they can get a job so they can keep the lights on and put food on the table for their kid, 81% are single mothers. This is disproportionately attacking our single mothers, women. So, and you have a government led by a bunch of, straight white men that are like bought off by all these, these private groups. But there's a very easy solution to this, both statewide and federally. It's taxing the rich. It's also doing popular policy like legalizing cannabis in this state, which 87% of Hoosiers want to do in some form or another, thanks to a Ball State study that came out last November. Yet again, chirp, chirp.
Would you be open to, writing a federal legislation to legalize cannabis?
Yes, 100%. We have more than a supermajority of public opinion that wants to legalize cannabis. Biden, he was trying to deschedule it. Then Trump reverted it back to Schedule 1, and now Trump's going back to reschedule it. But they know it's popular. That's why they're doing that. But it's because of yet again, goes back to money in politics. Look how that turns around. The big pharmaceutical companies see them as a competition. The big alcohol companies see them as a competition. So what they don't want to do is have this whole new sector. And, I know veterans that got blown up in Afghanistan and Iraq, and or they just elderly people that have arthritis that they need cannabinoid products to relieve some of that pain, those stressors. And Indiana is losing so much money by people traveling out of state to Michigan, Illinois, even Ohio and Kentucky that have it medically. We're losing so much money. Yet again, I'm running for federal. This is a state policy. All we would have to do in Indiana is legalize cannabis and tax it at 10%, the same rate that Illinois does already. And we would make a revenue of $240 million. Remember that voucher program money? $220 million. So we can completely refund and expand the voucher program so our working class people, many single mothers, could take their child to daycare. And this isn't just you're dropping your kid off to, a nanny or something. This is crucial development period. There's many kids, what the daycare workers were telling me, they don't even know how to play with building blocks. There's so many levels where kids are getting neglected because the parents are working 2 to 3 jobs. And children that go to daycare are significantly more likely to graduate high school and then college. So, there's a saying is our children, our younger generation, make up 20% of the population, but 100% of our future. And we need to invest in that future by having things such as universal daycare programs across the country, which I will advocate for now and once in Congress. And we also need to have universal school meals, both breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and into a summer program, because our children can't focus on learning if they are hungry in school. Yeah. And 1 in 3 Hoosier children are food insecure. And also, there's so many problems that go into that. We also need to have our teachers to have not just a living wage, but a dignified wage. That way they're the backbone of the country. That's the most, as someone who's looking to get into the education sector, one day when I'm done with politics, probably never, I'll probably be Bernie Sanders' age by the time.
I'm never going to be done with politics. I'm going to be like Auntie Maxine. I'm going to be in my 80s out here doing what I'm
never going to be done with politics. But as soon as politician hat comes off and, whenever that is, I do want to get into education. I'm very passionate about education. That's why I support bills like the Pay Teachers Act, proposed by Bernie Sanders and co-sponsored by another senator, where they would have the minimum wage of teachers right now shoot up to 60,000 at least, and then work to increase it every couple years to 65 and 70,000. Now I want to expand on that program. I'd like to see our teachers make $80,000 a year annually. Like, and every state, the GDP is a little different, so we can balance it as that. We can talk about that. But we need to take care of our children. We need to take care of those that take care of our children.
I agree, because especially since we're asking them now to be active shooter resistance fighters, we're asking them to be mental health professionals, we're asking them to do so much more, but yet they're having to drive Ubers on the weekend just to make ends meet. Something else that I think is critical to what you do at the federal level is how we address healthcare. I know that you said Medicare for all, but one thing about working in Congress is that you have to find compromise. I know that's a dirty word to a lot of people, but because
it just depends on what it is.
So
it's there's a gray zone between like are we going to compromise on gay rights or women's rights?
Okay.
Hell no. Like, no, human rights are off the table, and healthcare is a human right. Education is a human right. Now, if I get into Congress and we're like 2 votes shy of Medicare, and now I'm not saying we're going to get this under Trump. Come on. But like, let's say we're getting, 2028 or whatever, right? And hey, we don't have the votes for Medicare for all, but maybe we could do a public option or like a Medicare for half, which is a real policy that was proposed. That's when I come back to the 5th district. I listen to the people. I'm like, do you guys want me to hold out strong for this policy that I know we all agree on, basically? More than say, like, there's, as I mentioned, the people are unanimous, like pretty solid on this issue. But hey, guys, Congress is blocking it. The big health insurance companies have lobbied the Republican Party for sure, and perhaps a few Democrat party members. What do you guys want me to do? So that's what a representative is supposed to do.
Love that.
Even though it will hurt me, it will break my soul. I mean, public option, sure. Like, that would get so many more people insured. That's obviously good. More healthcare, always good. General rule of thumb, right? But I know that we should move to a system that doesn't commodify healthcare to make profit for a CEO. And that exploits us. It's a scam. It's like having firefighter insurance. Like, oh, well, you're going to go bankrupt because of firefighter bankrupt bills. No, it's like, that's a human right. So right now we have a for-profit middleman in between us and our doctor. Out of 33 developed countries, we are the only country out of that list that doesn't guarantee healthcare at all as a human right, and not just a privilege for the wealthy to exploit. So, as I mentioned, 70,000 Americans die every year due to lack of healthcare. I've seen it on the ambulance. Too many people are scared about that bill. In Mexico and Canada, like our neighbors, there's like scams that like they'll listen to the ambulance radio and they'll try to beat the normal public ambulance to this place, and then they'll scam you, and that's like a huge scandal back there. But in America, that's just how it is. It costs like $1,500 to get an ambulance, and it's tragic because they'll have life altering trauma, let's say, and they would rather walk. Like, people have straight up left the ambulance that I was on, and they're like, I'll walk. I'm like, that's going to take like a 20-minute walk. It's snowing. Are you sure? And they're like, I can't afford this, man. Like, if I do this, like, I think I could make it there, suffering the whole way. But I would rather do that than put my family in medical bankruptcy. They don't deserve that. This is my problem. Some people are just, they're like that, and I've taken veterans from the hospital back to their homes to die because they didn't have the medical, they didn't want to go medical bankrupt, or they didn't want to put their family in medical bankruptcy. Like, these people have already risked their lives for this country. And this is not just happening to veterans. This is happening to people all backgrounds. But it's especially sad that we can't even take care of those that take care of us. It's a huge shame. That's why I support Medicare for all, Bernie Sanders legislation. I would be perfectly happy with Bernie Sanders Medicare for all. It's a 4-year transition program. So, the first year, hey, everyone below the age of 18, because right now it's 65 and up. 65 and up, you get Medicare. We need to have it to where vision, dental, and hearing is included. It's absurd that that's not included.
Yeah,
So first
yeah.
year, we lower the age from 65 to 55. So include that age bracket, and then everyone 18 below. And every subsequent year after that, you'll lower that by 10 years until everyone's included. And that would make it to where everyone has health care and no one dies due to, fear of medical bills, or no one, and also no one, they don't have to fear it because no one's going to go bankrupt, the number
Right.
one form of bankruptcy.
Right. So, one of the things you said that it made me chuckle inside. You said you have some conservative friends. I congratulate you on that, because I don't. I just don't. But what I think that
I'm in the military. You got to kind of work together. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're out in District 5, I'm certain you're coming across and talking to people. Well, better question. What are people in your district saying, and how are you managing the conversations with folks who may or may not agree with all of your policy positions?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually like one of my favorite interactions I have is like getting people on the team, because the real problem is people don't think that they are like have democratic values until I just explain it, and they're like, "Oh, actually, yeah, healthcare sounds good. No foreign wars, that sounds good. How about more democracy for people? Yeah, that sounds pretty good." I've gone on like libertarian podcast. I've gone like talked to many like MAGA hat wearing people. Like I've gone into like the enemy territory per se, right?
Are they our enemies?
And no, it depends. It depends on because there are people who are just culturally like, hey man, like my family just votes Republican. I don't really know that much. I'm not, because like politics might not be their thing. They might just like cars, video games, whatever it is. Politics, but what I try to tell these people is democracy is not a spectator sport. If you don't do politics, politics sure as hell will do you.
Ooh.
Everyone has to get involved and, create the future that we all know that we deserve. So when I, tell them about the policies that this campaign's supporting, even people who self-describe as libertarian, conservatives, more centrist, allegedly, they were like, okay, yeah, I've never voted for a Democrat a day in my life, but I like what you're saying, because this is not usual. This is not politics as usual. I haven't heard anyone explain it like that. So we're building that trust with communities that are like seemingly outside the political process. And, as I mentioned before, Indiana ranks 50th out of voter turnout. Mm-hmm. So, biggest enemy is not the Republicans, it's the couch. We need to bring in new people to the democratic process, realize, and lowercase d and the uppercase D, get them in the Democratic Party. We need to let these people know you have a home here. So many people if they're just not paying attention, or they see something that upsets them, they don't see themselves in the Democratic Party. That's why we got to build that bridge. We got to make these connections. What are the people saying on the ground? And then we got to represent that in Congress. We got to represent that at all levels.
What are they telling you?
Yeah, I've been to every single, there's 6 counties. It's generally northeast of Indianapolis. So Hamilton, Tipton, Howard, Madison, Grant, and Delaware counties. I've gone everywhere. I've had town halls in every single county, and I've done protests there. I've organized groups, but generally the message is all kind of the same. The little guy, the working class, is not getting represented in Congress. Now, there's different issues. Like if there's a personal thing, it might get a little bit more specific. Overall, the message is the same. They're worried about our democracy. They're worried about groceries, affordability. They're worried about their health care. And they're just all these things connect is because we don't have a representative in Congress that's representing us. Anytime we want to get something done, the people want to get something done. Know how many phone calls you get, protests you do, letters you write. It doesn't seem like our politicians are really taking the time to listen to us. But the second Wall Street wants something done, the second these big oil industries want the second the NRA wants a bill passed, like the Republicans sign it, the president signs it off into law, and it's basically as fast as these lobby groups can, write up the bill, our politicians send it to the House floor for a vote. So that's what this movement's about, both in the Indiana's 5th district and nationally. That's what this movement's all about, is getting new people on board and fighting for a system that works for all of us and not just the top 1%.
I love it. And so historically, this is a fact. It's not to diss, because everyone knows I love young people, but historically, young people have always had a lower voter turnout. What
Yes.
are you doing to engage your peers and young folks to be involved in this movement?
Yeah, great question. And I'm from Muncie, and around the Muncie area, and we're working on so many different areas. We're working on creating like the Delaware County Young Dems. We haven't seen that in years. A Madison County Young Dems. We're working on creating like indivisible groups, in Grant County and like all these other places, right? But we're organizing. You build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So they will. Young people, my generation. I've talked to so many people across the district here, but they're very policy specific. Like,
Ooh.
and so they're like single issue voters. A lot of, it means different issues, each person, generally rule of thumb here, but a lot of them have overlap. A lot of people in the 2024 election, and of course, you got is a Democrat versus a fascist, of course, but people get pushed away, as I mentioned, people don't see themselves in the Democratic Party. I've talked to many trans friends of mine that they say, why do I have to feel like I have to either vote for the candidate that supports my right to exist as a trans person and vote for a genocide overseas in Gaza? So young people are very passionate. Like, we see our phones, we can see what's happening in the world. We're not dumb. So we got to have campaigns that like represent the popular will of the people and not take things such as like APAC money, which Victoria Spartz takes. She's taken more than $93,000 from APAC. Collectively. So that's why like sending like these are tax dollars that we like just yesterday actually we sent $3.3 billion to Israel again, even though the whole UN, the whole world has come together to say they're committing genocide. We sent more money to them. That could be money to our schools. That could be money. We talked about a daycare program. Yeah, how much money does a federal daycare program cost? Or how it costs 220 million, sorry, in Indiana for that voucher. Okay, every state could have had that voucher like 10 times, like 20 times over, even more than that. If we just move that money back to here at home. So that's what young people are cared about. They care about. They care about, like overall, young people want to get involved. When you fight for something, they fight way harder. It's way easier to fight for a vision that you care for than the other person's worse. Join my team. They don't want to get involved. Young people, I'm not speaking for my whole generation, but
Right.
it's what
Of
I've
course not. You
seen.
can't. It's like me
I've seen
saying I'm speaking
studies.
for
I've
all
talked to
black people.
people.
It just ain't gonna happen, right?
Yeah, you got to go to them. You got to fight and earn their vote. They're not just going to come. If anything has taught us of these last 20 years in Indiana, they're not just going to come out of nowhere just cuz. Now, it's 2026. We can all see the writing on the wall. We might get a slight bump because like they're just so terrible in the Trump regime. But we have to earn their vote. I'm going to Sheridan for a town hall tomorrow, and the last time Sheridan had a town hall, like a congressional town hall, was years ago. I literally don't know when they had it. But we got invited by many community members there because they're like, if you're coming down here, I'd love to see, hear a candidate speak to me for the first time. It was like in my own hometown. So, and that's how Obama won in '08. He fought in Indiana. Obama won Indiana in 2008, as of course Dana. We talked about it. But he did that by he went to Marion, Indiana, which is in our district, Grant County. He fought for these votes. He promised a vision for the future that reflected the will of the people. And that's what we got to do. That's what this grassroots movement is all about, is fighting for what's popular, a democracy where our representatives listen to the voters, listen to the electorate, and then they take that and fight for them in DC. So that's what we're about. That's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to get young people involved.
I love it. And that is like the perfect way to end it, because normally I ask people to give their closing shot, but that was it. That was perfect. First of all, your energy is infectious. I love how enthusiastic you are about the hard work of running for office. Hopefully other people who are seeing you, other young people are seeing you and like, whoa, I can do that too. I may not run for Congress, but maybe I'll run for school board. So I'm hoping that as people witness your energy and your excitement for service, that they take a little bit of that and empower themselves with it. And that is a beautiful thing to see. So if nothing else, everybody knows I stay neutral in the primaries, but if nothing else, I want people to take away the fact that you are being energetic and you're using what the gifts you have to run for office. I'm not going to lay it, do the yay young people for getting involved. No, you're being you. You're doing your thing, and I wish you the absolute best of luck. All right.
Thank you very much,
so much for joining me on Turn Left.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Please go to jacksonfranklinforcongress.com to get involved in our campaign. I'm a broken record grassroots campaign. We're not going to raise $1 million like Victoria Sparks. We can raise pretty good money. Like, our goal is $500,000
Yeah.
by the general. So
So tell the people where
please.
they can find you.
Yeah, so if you go to jacksonfranklinforcongress.com, we have all of our links to all of our social media. You can see our policy. You can donate. There's a volunteer form. But any social media, if your preference is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, what have you, Blue Sky, X, whatever, just type in Jackson Franklin for Congress. We'll be there, and we post. We have a very great media team, so we're always plugging content along. And we'd be very appreciative and grateful to have you on our team, and so that way we can flip the district November 3rd. And primaries are important too. So get involved. We're all on the same team. We all have largely the same end goal here. So as I said, you got to get involved in democracy. It's not a spectator sport. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Jackson Franklin for Congress in the 5th District. You have a fantastic day, brother.
You too. Take care, Dana. See you, everybody.
All right. That was a great conversation with Jackson Franklin, who is running in the 5th District. Listen, if you liked his conversation and you believe in what he's talking about, click on his donate link. Give him a few dollars. Become a recurring donor, whatever it takes, because I hear the grassroots and I think it's wonderful, but he is still going to need your financial support. So if you believe in him and you're believing what he's talking about, donate to his campaign and give him that financial support. Guys, this is the first one. We got many more coming. Thank you so much for tuning in to Turn Left. I will be bringing you more congressional candidates in these short vignettes so that you can find out who these candidates are. All right, Indiana's own Dana, Turn Left. Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions, executive producer Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by Dorian and 22 from Pixabay.